Hello, and welcome to our lecture for Chapter 8, Complex Designs. In this lecture, we'll be talking about multiple dependent variables. Why would a researcher want to have more than one dependent variable? Well, it's certainly an efficient use of time. If you've gone through all the effort to design a study, to do your literature review, to create your hypotheses, you can investigate more than one dependent variable pretty much without much effort at all. In particular, you can investigate one concept multiple ways. So using multiple measures of one dependent variable will allow you to have more reliability when it comes to your dependent variable. So for example, if you're measuring depression, maybe you use a depression scale that you've recently created, and then in addition to it, you use the Beck Depression Inventory, which is a standard depression inventory. By doing so, now you know what somebody's score is on your measure, as well as a standardized measure. This will give you more reliability when it comes to analyzing your data. In addition to investigating just one concept multiple ways, you can actually investigate related concepts. So perhaps if you're investigating depression, you may also want to look at anxiety or other affective disorders. That way you're measuring related concepts in addition to depression. Another reason researchers like to have multiple dependent variables is because it answers more complex questions. Very rarely do researchers have one simple, straightforward research question. We tend to ask questions like, what is the effect of multiple cultural experiences when it comes to the expression of different post-traumatic stress disorders? So you could have 5 or 6 different types of cultural backgrounds that you're looking at, and you could have multiple different types of post-traumatic stress disorders looking at. By measuring multiple different types of post-traumatic stress disorder experiences, you can answer a more complex question. This question is probably more nuanced and more reflective of what actually happens to people in the real world. Therefore, it would have more generalizability, more external validity. Now, when you have multiple dependent variables, you have to be careful that you do something called a manipulation check. The manipulation check is just a procedural process where we look and see, did our independent variable manipulate our dependent variable? Most people just take for granted that whatever it is they're manipulating, their independent variable in this case, actually affected their dependent variable. But it's actually a really smart procedure to confirm that it has manipulated it. Because often when you find non-significant results, you may want to look and see why you have non-significant results. Most commonly, the independent variable itself is not a strong enough independent variable to cause a change in your dependent variable. And if that's the case, there's nothing wrong with your theory or the literature that you've done. There's something wrong with the way you carried out the experiment. And so this is a smart procedure to do, particularly when you find non-significant results. Let's give an example of how you could do this. Let's say that you were doing an experiment testing the effect of praise or criticism on mood. So dependent variable here is mood. Independent variable here would be type of feedback with 2 levels, praise and criticism. Now, you probably have some sort of measure or scale that's validated for testing mood, but how do you know that your participants actually registered that they were being praised or that they were being criticized? Well, in order to do that, you want to maybe give a questionnaire. And you could ask a question like, how did the researcher respond when you failed the first task? And if they respond, oh, I was told I was stupid, well, now you know that they saw that they were being criticized. If they said something like, I didn't really notice how the researcher responded, well, now you know that your manipulation here, it didn't work. The participants didn't see it happening, and therefore, if you have non-significant results, it's because the praise and the criticism that you were giving wasn't salient enough to your participants. Thank you for your attention.